Hi everyone, this is Michael Ware. I'd like to show you how to use my church/pop choir and orchestra template in Dorico. There are so many great time-saving features. Let's get to it. As you can see, I'm opened up to the full score view in the template. On the left side, you'll see the title page that includes an instrumentation sheet with substitute parts. We'll talk about those substitute parts here in just a little bit. And on the right side, you'll see the first page of a full score. The full score, as well as the instrumental parts, are all formatted on 8.5 by 11 size paper. Most churches are downloading these orchestrations and printing them themselves, so I think it makes sense to use the most common paper size in the US. At the top of the page, you'll see all your score information. I would encourage you, don't edit it actually on the page itself. Go to the File menu and Project Info and edit the information here. And I'll add my name. You can add all the rest of the information, including the copyright, all right there in Project Info. This score is for choir and orchestra with the choir at the top of the score. So it's in a reduced choir format with soprano and alto on one staff and tenor and bass on one staff. And then you have your piano/rhythm part. It's very common in a church orchestra type situation when you have choir to have the choir and piano rhythm at the top. And then we have woodwinds, 2 flutes, 1 oboe, 2 clarinets, and bassoon. By the way, these parts, as you see here with flute, it's written where you can very easily get started writing. And it's in a format where you would see both flute 1 and 2 on the same line in the score and in the parts. I'll show you that in the parts. That's not as common in concert music, but it is in church orchestra music, so that's why this is formatted this way. I want to show you one thing, composers. There's no really good way to do this automatically in notation software. The first flute has an F sharp. This is still F sharp for the second flute, and you really need to put a reminder there just to show the second flute player that that's still a sharp. There's no great automatic way to do that. So just remember that as you write and prepare your parts. Again, it's so easy to get started in the score. Below the woodwinds, we have brass, 2 horns, 3 trumpets, 3 trombones, and tuba. And then percussion, I have a percussion staff, and then timpani. That percussion is set up now for unpitched percussion, but you could easily add bells, glockenspiel, chimes, whatever you wanted to it there. And then string parts. And in this case, we do have violin 1 and violin 2 separated. I think that just makes sense to do it that way. One of the great things about this template is that you can write in the full score, you can get started that way, or you could switch to your Octavo choral score and get started writing in the choral score. So you could write your choir vocal parts and your piano accompaniment all while working in this choral score, and then you could switch back to the full score to do your orchestration if that's how you prefer to work. It's very flexible where you can compose and write, arrange in the way that works for you. This Octavo choral score is set up on Octavo size paper that's 6 3/4 by 10.5. Very common for published choral music. Your choir will thank you. It won't be as floppy that way. You will have to do some chopping of your final folded pieces, but it'll definitely work better and not be as floppy, look a little more professional. So you can start writing right here in the choral score, or you can use the full score. As far as the piano rhythm part, you can easily get started here, and you can add chords. One thing that I really like is how I have these slash chords set up. So here you see C over E, and they're stacked chords in a fractional format. I think that's so much easier to read, and it saves horizontal space on your score. So I really prefer the chords that way. I've given a lot of attention to detail in the way the chord settings are set up in Dorico to get the best results. You can always change it and customize it to anything you want, but the chords work really well. I want to show you about a lead sheet. It's common in church orchestra music to have a lead sheet for your rhythm players. If you go all the way down to the bottom of your layouts here and switch to this working score with hidden parts, you see a lead sheet staff below piano rhythm. And you notice the chords are added automatically. You can actually add chords in the lead sheet and they'll appear in piano rhythm, or you can add them in piano rhythm and they'll appear in the lead sheet. You do not have to copy chords back and forth. But this will allow you to write out a lead sheet part and have your final finished part for lead sheet, and have that very easily available for your players. Also in this working score, we have a keyboard string reduction down there at the bottom. So it's below the strings. You can easily write that. My favorite way to do this is in galley view. So with the lead sheet also, I have the special view where you're seeing your choir, piano rhythm, and your lead sheet staff, where you can focus just on those staffs as you write the lead sheet, or you can switch to this other view that has piano rhythm, all your string parts, and then your keyboard string reduction at the bottom. You can use the implode, explode features of Dorico as you write your keyboard string reduction, and that will easily allow you to create this alternate part that is not on your full score. Speaking of alternate parts, as we go back to this title page, it says that we have these substitute parts available of Soprano Sax as a sub for oboe, bass clarinet as a sub for bassoon, Alto Sax for horn, and Tenor Sax for trombone. Let me show you how this works. This is a really cool feature here. I'm going to write just a little bit for horn. So there we have two measures for horn. We can even switch to our horn part and see that that part is already starting to be formatted. Watch this. When we switch to alto sax, it's formatted, it's transposed correctly. There's nothing extra you have to do to get a properly transposed alto sax substitute part for horn, and it works the same way with the other three substitute parts. This is a great time-saving feature of these templates. I want to show you a little bit of the formatting and how it works for the choir and piano rhythm parts. I'm actually going to copy in some music from a different project. This is I Will Sing of My Redeemer. This originally came from a finale file that I then formatted and did a lot of work on, but I'm going to copy music into the template. This is something you might do if you have a music XML file coming from Finale or Sibelius, but none of the formatting that I'm copying here comes from this file. It comes from the template. So you'll see how this works. Dorico's kind of unique. Instead of just copying the music, we actually want to copy the structure of the piece first. I'm going to do a Command A, that's Control A on Windows, and go to the Edit menu and Filter. And I want to deselect. I'm going to deselect some things from my Command All selection. Deselect. I'm going to deselect notes. I'm going to deselect dynamics and deselect lyrics. And just to show you that the formatting is actually coming from the new template, I'm also going to deselect all breaks. You can't see it because my picture's in the way, but deselecting any breaks that may already be in the music. Command C or Control C on Windows. I'll click the first measure in my template and paste. So you can see that the overall structure of the piece is there. Let me go back. I'm going to start off by copying all my wind parts, woodwind and brass. You have to make sure that the score you're copying from has your instruments in the same order as the template. So you might need to reorder some things. They just have to be in the same order to copy them all at once. So I'm going to select all of this all the way through and copy. And now I will click on the first measure of flute and paste. So the score is already formatted pretty well as far as the number of measures per system. Let's look at some of the parts. Look at this flute part here. That's really well formatted without doing anything. I do have a system on the last page by itself. We got an extra measure there after we copied that I'll get rid of. So we could go into engrave mode and try to get those last three measures on that second page if we wanted to. But still, that's a very well formatted part. Let's look at oboe. That's great. There's nothing you have to do to that part. That really looks good. We talked about substitute parts a while ago. Here's a horn part. We do have one measure on the last page. We could easily split something in engrave mode if we needed to, just to make that look a little bit better. Let's look at the alto sax part. That's fantastic. That really looks good. As I said, you will have to proofread when you have these combined instrumental parts and make sure that you put in some reminder accidentals, as I'm doing right here. Dorico doesn't expect that you're going to have these combined instrumental parts. It always expects that you want separate parts. But in church orchestra music, it is so common to have these two parts together. So that's the way this template is set up. Let me show you some with piano rhythm and with the choir. I am going to copy in the piano part from my source score. I selected it and then Command C. I'll click on the first measure of piano in the template and paste. That already looks really nice. Let's look at the piano rhythm. That is great, really well formatted. The only thing I see is this one crescendo that somehow got below the staff instead of above the staff. So there we go. Nicely formatted rhythm part. Let's look at choir. Again, I'm going to my other document. Just a kind of quirk of Dorico here, I'm actually going to have to copy soprano alto separately from tenor bass. The reason is, and this will depend on your source score, in the template it sees the whole choir, both staves, as one instrument. For soprano alto tenor bass, it thinks it's one instrument, and for this source file it sees soprano alto as an instrument and tenor bass is an instrument. So I just have to copy them separately. So there we go. That looks nice in the score. I haven't done my percussion or strings yet, but you can already see the score is looking really good without doing anything. The formatting really takes care of itself. Let's go to the Octavo choral score. And that really looks nice. If you've worked with many of these Octavo choral scores, you know that there can be some unique aspects to them. The formatting is sometimes difficult to deal with, but that really looks nice in this score. We do have a page 11 with 3 measures at the top of the page. We could pretty easily fix that since we have these 3 measures here. I'm going to select these 3 measures and go to Manual Staff Visibility. And I'm going to hide the choir. And then starting in measure 4, I will reset the choir where it shows all. And I am going to have to adjust a frame just a little bit. As I said, sometimes these choral scores are a little bit tricky, but you can very easily get good results. So now we have the first 3 measures as just the piano rhythm part, and then we don't have a page 11 anymore. We end at the bottom of the first page like we expect that we should. There's maybe a little bit of tweaking to do here, but again, if you've worked with these choral scores, you know what a great starting place this is to make a score that really looks good. And that's the key for especially a successful first read of your piece and a successful performance ultimately, that the music would be clear on the page and that your musicians would interpret it well. And I believe these templates can save you so much time, and you'll really have professional looking scores. I hope you'll check them out now at notationtemplates.com. Thanks for watching.